Imagine hanging out with your friends at a normal, everyday Target, waving goodbye as they leave, and then just vanishing off the face of the earth. One minute, you are a 20-year-old kid with huge dreams of starting a clothing line. The next, you are entirely gone, leaving your twin sister staring at a phone that will never ring again. The craziest part of all this? Derek Samuel's phone went dead right by a wooded ravine, but it took a whole month and a desperate family calling in a private rescue team to find his remains in just 4 hours. How does a young man disappear in plain sight on a spring evening? And what kind of nightmare actually happened out in those woods? If you want to help keep Derek's name out there and follow real stories like this, hit subscribe to US Crime Cases right now. Let us really talk about what went down here, because this case is terrifying. And honestly, it hits way too close to home. I mean, we all go to Target, we all hang out with friends in these big, busy shopping centers. It was April 29, a Wednesday evening. The weather in Georgia is starting to get nice, and Derek is at the Camp Creek Marketplace in East Point. He is there with his crew just doing what young people do. Before we get into the timeline, we really have to talk about Derek as a person. He was 20 years old, right at that age where you are technically an adult, but you are still figuring the world out. He was a creative kid with massive dreams. He wanted to start his own clothing line. You know the type, always thinking about fashion, putting outfits together, trying to build a name for himself, and everyone who knew him talked about how funny he was. He loved making people laugh. He was the guy who brought the good energy to the room. Wow. It is just so hard to wrap your head around the fact that someone with that much light, that much life ahead of him, can just be wiped away in a single night. So, Derek and his friends are hanging out. The evening starts to wind down. They are probably standing around the parking lot doing the usual drawn-out goodbyes we all do. But when it is time to actually leave, the group splits up. His friends get in their cars or walk off, and Derek decides to stay behind. His mom, Nishai, later told investigators a detail that just haunts you. She indicated he was reportedly supposed to meet somebody afterward. Right there, we have to stop and analyze this. I see this happen so much in these cases, and it always makes my stomach drop. Who was he meeting? Think about your own life or your kids' lives. In today's world, meeting someone could mean 100 different things. Was it an online date? We all know how sketchy those apps can be, and you never really know who is on the other side of the screen. Was he buying or selling something? A guy who is into fashion might be meeting up to trade some sneakers or buy some vintage clothes from a marketplace app. Or was it just a friend of a friend? He trusted whoever it was enough to let his ride leave. Whatever the reason, that one single choice to stay behind at the Target changed the entire course of his life. When you watch the security footage from that night, it does not look like a horror movie. It looks so normal, which almost makes it scarier. Derek is seen leaving the store. He is just walking down the sidewalk, heading toward Commerce Drive and Redwine Road. Police looked at that video for hours. They studied his body language. They noted that he did not appear distressed in the video at all. He was not looking over his shoulder. He was not walking fast. He didn't look like a guy who was scared or walking into a trap. He was just a young man taking a walk on a spring night. But if you look at the map of that area, it is one of those places that feels safe right up until it doesn't. You have the bright lights of the shopping center, the big box stores, the traffic. But right behind it, dense woods, a ravine. It is crazy how quickly the scenery changes from a busy retail center to dark, isolated trees. And somewhere between the bright lights of Target and those dark woods, the communication just completely stops. Now, if you have a brother or sister, you know how it goes. Sometimes people get busy. You text them, and if they do not text back, you assume they fell asleep or their phone died. But Derek is a twin. He and his twin sister had that bond. They talked every single day. It wasn't just a casual check-in. They were deeply connected in a way most of us do not fully understand. Think about the twin sister for a second. Put yourself in her shoes. You are sitting on your bed, staring at your phone screen. You send a text. You wait for the 3 little typing dots to pop up, but they never do. You send another one. Nothing. You call and it rings once before going straight to voicemail. That physical anxiety that starts in your chest and spreads down to your stomach, it is suffocating. You start running through every possible scenario in your head. Did he drop his phone? Is he in the hospital? You call his friends, the ones he was at Target with. They tell you they left him there, that he said he was meeting someone. And that is when the absolute panic really sets in. When he ghosted her, the alarms did not just go off. They started blaring. At first, maybe she thought his phone died. But as the hours creep by and it gets late into the night and then the sun comes up the next morning, you start to feel sick. His mother, Nishai Samuel, had to process all of this in real time. Imagine pacing the floor of your house all night. Every time a car drives by outside, you look out the window hoping it is him walking up the driveway. You leave the porch light on. You keep your phone off silent, jumping at every single notification. By the time the sun came up on April 30th, the exhaustion and the fear must have been unbearable. They tried to be rational, I am sure. Families always do. They tell themselves, he will call by noon. But noon comes and goes. Nishai knew something was horribly wrong. You hear about a mother's intuition, right? It is real. She felt it in her gut instantly. She knew her boy. She knew he wouldn't just drop off the map without telling his twin sister. He wouldn't just ignore them. He wasn't the kind of kid to just run away from his life. Let's go back to that walk on camera for a moment. Commerce Drive and Redwine Road. I want you to picture the scene. It is a bustling commercial area. Cars are driving by. People are grabbing dinner, heading home from work. Derek is walking down that sidewalk. He is just existing in the world. Was he listening to music? Was he looking down at a text from the person he was supposed to meet? Hey, I am parked around back, or meet me near the trail. We don't know. But we know he trusted the situation. He didn't run. He walked. He walked right out of the frame of that camera and straight into a void. It is the irregularity of it all that gets under your skin. We expect crime to look like crime. We expect a dark alley, a screaming match, a struggle. But this was quiet. This was a young man waving goodbye to his friends at a Target and simply evaporating. The contrast between his big, bright personality and the silent, dark woods where he ended up is just devastating. When a mother and a twin sister tell you something is wrong, you do not wait around. You don't brush it off. They officially reported him missing the very next day. They did exactly what you are supposed to do. They went to the police and said, "Our boy is gone." But as we see in so many of these cases, getting the ball rolling when a 20-year-old adult goes missing is incredibly hard. The system can be so rigid. Legally, an adult is allowed to walk away from their life. They are allowed to turn their phone off. The police often look at these cases and say, well, he is 20. Maybe he just wanted a break. Maybe he went to a party and crashed on a couch. It is incredibly frustrating for the families. They have to fight just to be taken seriously. I see it in the comments all the time on this channel. People ask, why didn't they search the woods immediately? Why didn't they ping his phone that very night? And the harsh reality is that the resources just aren't deployed like that for a 20-year-old man who hasn't been gone for 24 hours yet. The police report was filed. The officers probably took down his description. 20 years old, wearing his outfit from that day, last seen at Camp Creek. They took his phone number. They promised to look into it. But the sense of urgency that a mother feels is rarely matched by the system early on. But Nishai and his sister didn't need 24 hours. They didn't need a police protocol to tell them what their hearts already knew. Derek was out there. He wasn't ignoring them. Something or someone was keeping him from coming home. The clock was ticking, and they were already losing time. Every single minute that passed without him was a minute he could be in danger. They were trapped in that terrible space between knowing in your heart that your loved one is in trouble and waiting for the rest of the world to catch up and actually help you look. So we left off with the family trapped in that terrible space, waiting for the rest of the world to catch up and actually help them look. For 4 weeks, the Samuel family lived in a kind of hell that most of us genuinely cannot even begin to imagine. I want to really think about what that looks like on a daily basis. Think about what waking up every single day for a month, opening your eyes in the morning, and for a split second, you forget what happened. Then it all comes crashing down on you like a ton of bricks. You look out the window and you are just wondering if your son or your twin brother is out there somewhere cold, hungry, hurt, or even worse. Every time the phone rings, your heart jumps into your throat. Every time a car pulls into the driveway, you pray it is him walking up to the door. Wow. It is a level of psychological torture that just breaks you down cell by cell. Eventually, the East Point police got fully involved. As they started treating this as a serious missing persons case, they went straight to the most logical piece of evidence we have in the modern world. His phone, right? We all know our phones track our every move. They pulled the data and they traced Derek's cell phone. The information they got back showed that his phone to be completely powered off. It did not die slowly. It just went dark. And the last ping, the very last digital footprint Derek Samuel left on this earth, came from an area near Redwine Road. If you look at the layout of that specific area, Redwine Road sits right by the woods behind the shopping center where he was last seen on camera. I see this happen so often in these cases where the last known location is right on the edge of a dense wooded area. It is chilling. You have this bright, busy target on one side and then just this dark, tangled nature right behind it. This is where things get heavily debated, and honestly, it is really frustrating to look back on. Early on in the investigation, the police did try to search that area. They brought in drones to fly over the woods and look through the tree canopy. They brought in K9 teams to try and pick up Derek's scent on the ground. They searched the general area around that last cell phone ping. But they came up with absolutely nothing. Zero trace of a 20-year-old man. Not a piece of clothing, not a phone, nothing. I mean, how does that happen? We have to ask ourselves, and we really have to hold the system accountable here. How thorough was that initial search? Were they actually looking for a body in those ravines, or were they just doing a quick surface level sweep because some part of them still thought he just ran off? When you are searching for a missing adult, sometimes the urgency just isn't there in the way it should be. The dogs didn't hit on anything. The drones didn't see anything on the camera feeds. It makes you wonder if they were just checking the boxes instead of really digging into the brush. Because as we find out later, he was there. He was out there the whole time. If you believe in bringing awareness to unsolved cases, please subscribe to U.S. Crime Cases right now. We tell their stories so they aren't forgotten. As the days turned into weeks, the desperation within the Samuel family hit an absolute boiling point. You can only wait on the police for so long before you realize you have to take matters into your own hands. The family started pooling their resources. They scraped together every bit of money they could find, leaning on the community and their own savings, and they pushed the reward up to $15,000 for any credible information leading to his whereabouts. $15,000 for a regular working family. That is a massive amount of money. It shows exactly how desperate they were to get anyone to talk. They knew somebody knew something. People do not just vanish into thin air without someone somewhere seeing a detail. But this is where the internet gets really ugly, and we have to talk about it. While the family is out there physically exhausting themselves, organizing foot searches, walking through the woods, begging for help on the local news, social media starts doing what it does best, making things significantly worse. I see it on TikTok and Facebook all the time. People who have absolutely zero connection to the case start treating real human tragedy like it is a movie plot for them to solve from their couch. Rumors started flying around the community and online. People were posting that Derek had been harmed in specific ways, spinning wild, graphic stories just for clicks, likes, and attention. The police could not confirm a single bit of it. None of it was backed by evidence. But imagine being his mom, Nishai. Imagine you are sitting in your living room. Your son has been missing for weeks. You are terrified, and you open your phone only to read strangers writing horrific theories about what they think happened to your boy. You are already completely broken, running on empty, and these strangers are turning your child's disappearance into neighborhood gossip. It is sick. It really is. Families of missing people always talk about how the rumors are a second layer of trauma, and the Samuel family had to walk right through that fire. Through all the noise, the drama, and the absolute lack of answers from official channels, the family never stopped. Not even for a day. They printed thousands of flyers. They walked up to gas stations, grocery stores, and bus stops, taping his face to every window that would let them. They talked to the local news stations, fighting just to get 30 seconds of airtime because they knew that the media cycle moves on so incredibly fast. If you don't keep shouting your loved one's name, the news anchors stop saying it. They did the heavy lifting. They felt like time was slipping away, and they were right. It really makes you sit back and think about how much pressure is placed on the families of missing people in this country. It is not like television, where a team of detectives works around the clock solely on your case until it is solved. In the real world, the family has to step up. They have to become amateur detectives, tracking down their kids' friends and asking hard questions. They have to become PR managers, handling press releases and managing social media pages. They have to become search and rescue coordinators, organizing volunteers to walk in grid patterns through the woods. They have to do all of this at the exact moment their entire world is falling apart, just to keep the public paying attention to their missing child. A whole month went by like this. Can you believe that? 4 full weeks of fighting, crying, printing flyers, and hoping. 30 days of nothing but silence coming from those woods behind Redwine Road. 30 days of a mother and a twin sister waiting for to open or a phone to ring while the rest of the world tonight just went on with their normal lives. So after 30 agonizing days of waiting for the official channels to bring them some kind of resolution, we finally get to Sunday, May 31st. You have to imagine the mental state of the Samuel family at this point. A whole month has passed. They are exhausted, their resources are tapped out, and the police aren't giving them any new leads. They realize that whatever the authorities are doing, it just isn't working. The grid searches have stopped. The drones are packed away, and the news cameras have moved on to the next big city story. They needed a completely different approach if they were ever going to bring Derek home. So they made a phone call and reached out to a group called GESAR, Georgia Emergency Search and Rescue. If you aren't familiar with them, GSAR is a nonprofit group of volunteers. They are not the police. They are not funded by the city or the state. They are just regular, everyday people who have day jobs, but who spend their free time training specifically to find the lost. I see this happening so much in these types of cases. When the system fails a family, it is almost regular citizens who step up to fill the gap. It is beautiful that people care that much, but it is also deeply sad that a family has to rely on volunteers because the people whose actual job it is to find their son came up empty. This next part of the story will honestly make you sick to your stomach, but it also shows the sheer power of people who actually care about the details. The founder of GESAR is a guy named Angel Alonso. When Angel takes on a case, he doesn't just walk blindly into the woods with a flashlight. He sits down and actually looks at the data. He looks at the maps of East Point. He looks at exactly where the police claim they had already searched. He looks at the topography of the land, the brush, the tree lines, and most importantly, he looks at where Derek's phone took its final breath and died. Angel overlays all of this information, and because he is looking at it with fresh eyes, without the bias of thinking Derek just ran away, he figures out exactly where the gaps are. He sees the blind spots the police missed. He realizes there is a very specific, steep ravine near a trail behind the reserve at Redwine Apartments that hasn't been properly cleared. He doesn't guess, he calculates it. So he puts together a targeted team and sends out a handler named Jim Lopez along with a search dog, K9 Jaeger. They head out into the woods on a Sunday morning. And guys, in about 4 hours, it was over. 4 hours. Wow. I really want you to let that sink in for a second because it is the most infuriating part of this entire tragedy. After a whole month of the East Point police using high-tech drones, bringing in their own K9 units, and essentially telling the family that they couldn't find a single trace of this 20-year-old kid anywhere, a civilian volunteer and his dog walked into that ravine and found human remains before lunchtime. Angel Alonso later spoke about it, and he noted that the area where Derek was found was exactly where they suspected he might be based on the map data. He also emphasized something incredibly heartbreaking. The remains had been out there for a while. Derek had been there the whole time, through the rain, through the cold nights, through the days when his mother and twin sister were out passing flyers just a few streets over. He was right there, just waiting to be found. We really need to talk about this because it is completely unacceptable, right? How did official channels miss him for an entire month if he was exactly where a volunteer's map said he would be? Was the terrain just too rough for the early search teams and they just decided not to push through the heavy brush? Or was there a lack of real boots on the ground effort early on because of his age? When the police write someone off as a young adult who probably just wanted to walk away from his life, they do not look as hard. They just don't. The urgency isn't there. And because of that lack of urgency, Derek's mother and twin sister had to live in absolute terror for 30 extra days. They had to organize their own searches, drain their bank accounts for reward money, and beg for help while their boy was lying out in the elements just a short walk from where he was last seen. It is a massive failure, plain and simple. Now, officially, the East Point Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division still has to go through the bureaucratic protocol. They have stated that the remains have not yet been positively identified pending official dental or DNA confirmation from the medical examiner. But let's be real. Derek's family already knows. They didn't wait for the red tape or the official press release. When you are a mom or when you share a bond like a twin sister does, you just know. The energy shifts, the waiting ends, and the finality of it just crushes you. They came out and publicly announced to the world that the body is indeed Derek's. They released a statement to the community that just breaks your heart. They said, although this is not the outcome we all prayed for, unfortunately, it has now become our reality. Imagine having to sit down and type those words about your 20-year-old son or brother. They expressed immense gratitude for the community's prayers and support, and they asked for privacy to grieve. They need time to process the fact that the young man who dreamed of starting his own clothing line, the kid who loved making others laugh, is never coming home. So, what happens now? That is the most painful part of where we are today with this case. The family finally has an ending to the month-long physical search, but they do absolutely not have answers. The circumstances surrounding Derek Samuel's death remain a complete and total mystery. The authorities have not yet confirmed the cause or the manner of death. We don't know exactly how he died. Did Derek walk out of that Target, head down Commerce Drive, and walk into those dark woods on his own? If so, why? It doesn't make any logical sense for a guy to just wander into a steep, unlit ravine at night. Or did he meet the person he was waiting for, and did that person force him down into that ravine? Remember what his mom said early on. He stayed behind at the shopping center because he was supposed to meet somebody. Who was that? I see people debating this constantly. Did he get into a car with someone he trusted only for things to go wrong? Was there an argument? Was it a setup to rob him? Was he lured out there by someone pretending to be someone else online? Right now, the police will not say if it is foul play. They are holding their cards very close to the chest. Currently, there are no suspects or persons of interest named to the public. It is terrifying to think that whoever might have done this to him, whoever met up with him that night and left him in those woods, is still just walking around out there. They are living their life, maybe going to that same Target, while Derek's family is forced to plan a funeral. This is exactly why we have to talk about cases like this and why we have to share these stories. It is about awareness and it is about protecting each other. If you are going out, if you are going to meet someone, especially someone you are doing business with or someone you met online, you have to share your location. You have to text a friend the exact details of who you are seeing, what car they drive, what time you are meeting, and where you are going. Leave a digital trail that cannot be erased. Call someone and keep them on the phone while you walk to your car. Just a single text saying, hey, I'm meeting this person at this spot, can literally be the difference between life and death. Derek was just a young guy trying to figure his life out. He had a massive personality. He wanted to make a name for himself in the fashion world. His life was literally just starting, and some dark, unknown event in those woods stole all of that potential away from him and his family. We have to keep asking the hard questions. We have to keep holding the system accountable and demanding better, more thorough searches from our local police departments the second someone goes missing, not a month later when civilians have to step in. And most importantly, we have to keep Derek Samuel's name and face out there until the police figure out exactly who or what took him away from his family on that spring night. If you want to help demand justice for Derek and follow more real unsolved cases like this, please subscribe to U.S. Crime Cases right now.